The rain pattered on the tarp that was tied taut above Travis's head. He sat bundled up, watching, looking out over the rapidly filling dig site. Fiona walked over from her tent with fresh brewed tea. She ducked under and shook the rain off her jacket. "How you doing?" she asked as she poured steaming tea into his uplifted mug. He didn't look up from where Rodney was buried. "Not good." She matched his gaze. "Me neither. I still don't know what to do." Travis took in a breath of steam off the top of the mug, letting the warmth fill his nostrils. "They should be here within the next couple hours." "Who's they?" she asked as she pulled up a stool beside him. He looked over at her, watching for a moment. "I don't know for certain. Could be from a couple of agencies. I called up my old boss's office. He's sending people." "And he believed you?" Travis shrugged and took a sip. "Doesn't matter if they believe me. I make a call to the office, people come out. All there is to it." She looked down into the water as it rose, the pumps off. "And if they want proof?" Travis pointed his mug over toward where Rodney lay covered in mud. "Rodney needs taken home. They can deal with that." "What about the thing?" Travis looked down into the blackened water. "Then I'll go down and get it." She shook her head. "It can't come back out. It has to stay down there." I know. He took another sip. "I told them about it." He let out a sigh. "Hopefully they come prepared." Car doors slamming broke the two from their stares. Travis stood and left from under the tarp. He took the trail through the trees and brush and met the 4 men at the parking lot. "Hey," he said, raising his hand. "Professor Travis Hawkins?" one of the men asked. Travis nodded, looking him over. He was young, clean-shaven, dressed for the rain and wearing boots. "Yeah, who are you?" "Agent Jones," he said, looking back at his comrades. He moved his hand toward the trunk before walking up toward Travis. "General's office said you have a situation here." "Yes, it's... hell, I don't know exactly what it is. Hell, I don't believe what happened." Travis shook a bit, thinking back to the events, to Rodney burning. Agent Jones grabbed him around the shoulders. "Don't worry, we got the memo. My buddies here have something cold to put it in and are already working on getting your buddy back home." Travis looked at him. "You believe me?" He looked around and saw the other men pulling an ice chest out from the trunk. Do you guys know what it is?" Agent Jones laughed. "Not a clue, but we believe you, bud. Clean track record like yours." He chuckled a bit more. "Actually, I doubted, but I was told to shut the fuck up and do my job. So yeah, we believe you. Orders." Travis nodded slowly. "Yeah, orders." He then started walking back down the path. Fiona walked up and joined them at the edge of the pit. The rain was letting up and she lowered her hood. "So, you're all Americans? Here?" Agent Jones was staring down into the water. "Yes, ma'am. You have issues with that?" "Yeah, I do. This is Ireland. That is Irish," she said, pointing down into the water. "Maybe," he looked up at her, "maybe we will deal with the problem at hand and let the bean counters back home deal with who owns what when all is said and done." She looked over at Travis. Travis nodded back at her and started stripping. He got down to his underwear, flexing his arms in the rain and twisting his neck until it popped. Jones moved his hand toward the edge of the pit. The other 3 men got down and opened up the chest. Steam rolled out as the dry ice was exposed to air. Travis walked out onto the mud and entered the water. He took a breath and went under. Fiona stood watching as the moments went by. Jones leaned toward her. "Where's the other woman?" She looked at him. "Beth is in Fordstown getting us sandwiches." Agent Jones, still watching where Travis went under, smiled. "They any good?" She nodded slowly. "Yeah, Bray's makes a pretty good pastrami on rye. They make their own mustard. Pretty good." "Bray's?" "Yeah, local pub in town. They make their own mead too. Pretty spot on." She paused. "You know what that thing is?" He shook his head. "No idea, but we'll figure it out." He bobbed his head toward the water. He's been down there a while. One of the other men began stripping, getting ready to jump in after Travis just as the professor popped up on the surface. Fiona and Jones sighed in relief. Travis swam to the edge of the water-filled pit. One of the two clothed agents opened the ice chest as he approached. Travis looked up at him. I pulled it up with the mud. Do not let it get warm. You understand? The agent nodded. We all read your statements. We got it. Travis took a breath and lifted the ball of mud out of the water and set it amongst the dry ice. Be careful with it, seriously. The two men nodded and closed the lid. The other agent was done redressing and approached them. The trio looked at Agent Jones. He looked back at them and gave a curt nod. Backseat. Sit with it. Fire up the car. He turned toward Travis, who had pulled himself up onto the mud ledge. We'll get this safely out to international waters. Thank you for your continued service. Travis tilted his head slightly. Thank you, guys. Safe travels. Agent Jones turned and lifted his hand in a lazy wave goodbye. You too, Professor. Jones sat in the passenger seat while Cody and Luke sat on either side of the chest. Mike was driving. N52 was the quickest way to get to Dublin and the port. There, the plan was to get this out through the channel to a destroyer waiting 20 miles offshore. It was all lined up. Whatever this thing that old Army Ranger had found would be out of his jurisdiction and someone else's problem. Mike was keeping the four-door Ford at a good pace to make time. They rounded through a small outcrop of woods toward an intersection. Sun was getting low, but John could see they didn't have a stop sign and was more focused on the stone walls and fields. Mike didn't see the family on the left coming from Bruno's lodge. They failed to stop, and both cars had to swerve to avoid a collision. Cody and Luke shifted in their seats, their belts holding them in place. The chest, however, wasn't strapped down, only held by their hands, and shifted. The top flipped open, spilling ice and the ball of mud onto the floor of the car. Mike slammed the brakes, stopping short of the stone wall. Cody and Luke slammed their heads forward into the seats in front of them. Fucking hell! Cody yelled. Luke was the first to realize the chest was open. Shit! It's on the floor! John looked back, reaching awkwardly, trying to grab it as it rolled under his seat. Get it! We have to keep it cold. Luke struggled, reaching under the seat, his fingers slipping on the wet mud, pushing it further and further under the seat. Mike smelled it, burning plastic. Shit. Is it lit? Luke pushed the door open and got out, snapping a belt off of himself. He leaned back in and looked under the seat. A small blue flame poked free from the mud and was eating into John's seat. Fuck it is, John, your seat's on fire. The four men began unlatching themselves and jumping out of the car. John turned back to reach under his seat to grab it as the seat ignited. The father from the other car was walking over to help when the car erupted into flames. Holy shit! Good you guys got out! That car's a death trap! Agent Jones ran over to him, shielding his eyes from the now roaring flames. Get your family out of here! Go! He shouted. You all need help! I'll call the brigade out! He said, pulling his phone from his pocket. John looked over at the car, smoke billowing out. Red and yellow flames burst out through the windows, stretching, growing, reaching. Call 'em, but get on the road. This is dangerous. Your family is at risk. John put his hands on the man and started lightly pushing him. Go! The father had the phone to his ear and hurried toward his car. He got in and started driving. Cody, Luke, Mike, and John stood next to each other, watching as the fire raged in the car. A moment later, the gasoline erupted, causing a small explosion. Cody pulled a grape Jolly Rancher out of his pocket and popped it into his mouth, still staring at the inferno. What now? John took a long breath and pulled out his phone. He started typing out a text to the general's office. Damage control. I'll get back up. At the other side of the intersection, a box truck rolled up to the stop sign. Beth leaned out from the window, staring at the fire. She watched as it moved, rolled, growing, before the flames began shrieking. Fucking hell! That's the Phoenix! She yelled. You the guys Professor Hawkins knows? Agent Jones was stepping back from the heat of the flames, still typing, when he looked up at her. You must be Beth? She nodded. What happened? She shook her head. It doesn't matter, that thing's dangerous. We have to get out of here. She looked across the intersection at a gate leading up to a homestead. We have to warn people. Jones approached her, adjusting his belt. It's contained here. I've alerted people and help is en route. You go ahead and get those Sammys back to your friends. Beth stared at the car. In the heart of it, she could see the silver sphere floating, pulling lines of glowing slag into loops around itself. She shook her head. Get in! Jones chuckled. It's all right. We got the fire contained there. The orb rose up as the roof melted, the fire pushing out, erupting in a focused flame. It stretched from the roof as smoke billowed out from its outstretching limbs of light. Cody and Luke both took a step back. Mike stood in awe, staring, as the fire formed into a mass and appeared to focus on him. Beth yelled, Move! Cody and Luke started running, but it was too late for Mike. The head of fire lurched down and engulfed him. In an instant, he was blackened and consumed. John slung open the passenger door and flung out the sandwiches and cups of ale. Cody and Luke pushed him in as the trio clamored inside. Beth pulled John close to her as she looked over at the fire. The sphere was a dot in its core, the mass of yellow and red flames stretching out over the road, crawling toward them. Fucking hell! Go, woman! Cody yelled. Beth hit the gas, turning left back toward the bog. The flames stretched up and began chasing them. Travis and Fiona heard the honking and rushed down the path. Travis saw the box truck. Then the four people crammed into the front seat and his teeth clenched. What happened? Agent Jones leaned over Beth. It's loose. Fiona shut her eyes, raising her hand to her forehead. That didn't take long at all. What, 20 minutes? Travis looked over the trees into the darkened sky. Glimmers of yellow light flickered in the distance, and the glow illuminated trails of smoke stretching upwards. People are going to stop it. They're in danger. Everyone knows. I got confirmation. Help is coming, John said. Travis walked over to the truck. Nobody knows. We don't know what that thing is. They're going to be approaching it like it's a normal fire. We have to be on site, warn people on the ground. Cody shook his head. I'm an analyst. I wasn't told anything about any goddamn fire monsters. I thought it was a neat rock or something. This is nuts. Luke was looking down at his hands in his lap. It ate Mike. He burned alive. Travis waved them out. Get out, you all out. It's going to burn lots more alive if we don't do something. Beth, Luke, and Cody crawled out from the truck. Travis hopped into the driver's seat. Agent Jones didn't budge. I'll go with you, John said. Dr. Adams crawled in the other door. I'm with you too, Travis. Travis nodded and slammed the door shut. Call anyone you can. We're going to need help. Cold. Everything is cold. Has been cold, cold for so long. Hungry, starved, free from the water finally. Food. Eat once more. Food everywhere. So cold. Must protect myself. The fire crawled through the trees, stopping to absorb the carbon from the wood while sucking in the fresh air. It pulled its heat inward, focusing it into a ball of warmth, using it to melt and shape the bits of metal it had procured. It molded 8 spikes, twisting the elements together into a hard alloy. It then pushed them out into the ends of its newly reborn limbs. It stretched the new blades, forming fingertips. It swung out at a nearby tree, cutting deep into it, letting its sap ooze out. It leaned in, drinking deeply of the pine. The tree erupted, flames pouring into the creature, smoke pouring up toward the sky. Enemy lights. The creatures were here. It turned, looking at the illuminations. The bipeds were running into the woods. It could feel the cooling of water. It heard the hiss as the flames it had left were quenched. The smell of drowning flames filled its senses. It roared, growing in size, taking in 3 more trees. Travis rolled up on the scene. The woods were aflame and a fire brigade was already busy hosing down the edges near the road. He stopped and got out. You all! Hey! One of the firefighters turned toward him, approaching. It's all right, buddy. We got this under control. Hop back in your truck there. Travis shook his head. No, you don't understand. We're all in danger here. The firefighter kept waving him back. You are, yes. We're professionals. Travis shut his eyes and took a breath. He stepped closer and then stared the firefighter in the face. This isn't a normal fire. It's something out of the bog, something old. It's in those woods there. It's violent, and your men are in danger. The firefighter stared back. Travis's eyes didn't waver. Something out of the bog? Fiona leaned out of the box truck. I'm an archaeologist. Dublin University. We woke up something." He turned away from the people and looked back towards the woods as he heard it. The woods roared as smoke and light erupted from it. He looked toward his brothers. "Look to the woods! There's fire in the woods!" The 6 men looked up as the tree line along the road erupted in flame. A wall of fire swung out. Fingers of metal raked across one of the men, cutting his jacket open and raking a scratch across his face. Travis pointed. "Aim the hose there! The ball in the fire!" The man who had come up to him looked, peering into the bright flames. He saw the silver sphere glimmering in the heart of the odd-moving flames. "Aim the hose!" It felt the cold life-sucking fluid eating at its lower body. It saw the heat of the body, recognizing it. The one who had pulled it from the cold. The one who had struck it back down into the cold. The one who removed it again. "This one toys with me. I am no toy." It roared and lunged toward Travis. Travis ran, getting back into the truck. It left the tree line to chase him, damn him. The other bipedals attacked. Cold fluid hit into its core, stunning it. The flame creature roared again. The things fired more cold at it. "I will not be imprisoned again." It stretched out into the treetops, pulling its core upwards, out of range of the fluids. It stretched into the sky and leapt. Its flames were lighter than the cold air, and allowed it to lift into the sky. It pulled its body up, holding the heat close to its heart. It drew its fingers in, spinning them around, honing them, heating them as it flew away from the danger. Travis had backed the truck down the road and stopped as the Phoenix lifted into the air. It flies." Fiona stared up with him. "It's a Phoenix. I think we could have predicted that." Agent Jones was busy texting. "Entity airborne, consuming flammables. Appears to be able to manipulate and use metal. Doesn't like water. Need containment." John watched as someone on the other end was typing. He waited, staring down at his phone as the other 2 watched the creature fly away. Then the response came. "Irish authorities alerted. Cooperative containment has been approved. Keep eyes on target and report."